Hello, hello, and welcome to another rendition of Math is Easy, step by step. So I like to build on solving one-step equations and work on how to solve two-step equations. So when solving an equation, you want to try to find the value of the variables. You want to use reverse PEMDAS, or order of operation. When you're solving for a variable, X, Y, Z, happy face, moon, star, whatever that variable is, remember it represents a real number. And when you're trying to solve for X or Y or Z, those are typical uh, standard variables in mathematics, you want to use the opposite of the order of operations. Remember, order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, stands for parentheses are first. Exponents you will work on second. Multiply or divide would be third. Adding or subtracting would be fourth. So when you're simplifying an expression, you follow the order of operations, PEMDAS. Now, when you're solving for variables, I suggest, in order to help you, you go in the reverse order. First, you would do the inverse or the opposite of adding or subtracting. Then you would do the inverse or the opposite of dividing and multiplying. And then finally, you would do work on the exponents and then parentheses. So when you're solving for X or Y or Z in these one or two step equations, this will help remind you what to do first. First, we do opposite of adding and subtracting, and then multiplying and dividing, and then you work on those exponents. Um, so here is a quick reminder, right, of using inverse operations. So here are the inverse operations. Again, inverse, or the opposite of adding, is to subtract. The opposite of subtracting is to add. The opposite of multiplying is to divide. Opposite of divide is to multiply. The opposite of an exponent is the radical, or square root. The opposite of a square root is to take the squared, the exponential value of 2. And so these are just some really good reminders. I'm going to try to remind you in each of these videos fairly briefly what to do in the inverse operation. So let's go ahead and let's solve these two-step equations using inverse operations. Remember, follow this order. It's the opposite of PEMDAS, the order of operations, when solving for a variable X or Y. First, you'll do the opposite of adding or subtracting, then you'll do the opposite of multiplying and dividing, and then you do the opposite of exponents and or parentheses. So let's go ahead and take a look at this first example. You got 2x minus 3 equals 3. So again, let's go ahead. I want to bring that back up here. Let's take a look. We're going to follow, using inverse operations, the reverse of PEMDAS, order of operations. So I want to do the inverse of adding or subtracting first. What's the opposite of a minus 3? I want to add 3 to both sides of the equal sign, right? So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Negative 3, you owe me $3. You pay me back. How much do you owe me? 0. That cancels out. I'm just going to bring down the 2x value. I'm going to rewrite my equal sign. And 3 plus 3 is 6. All right. Now, again, I want to do I got one more step to solve, and again, I want to review. I want to use the opposite. I've already done adding and subtracting. Now I want to do the opposite or inverse operation of dividing and multiplying with my final step. Again, these are two-step equations because it takes 2 steps to get that variable, in this case, x, all alone. What's the opposite of multiplying? The inverse or the opposite is to divide. But what I do to one side of the equal sign, I got to balance my equation and do to the other side of the equal sign. 2 divided by 2 leaves me with 1x equals what's 6 divided by 2? 6 divided by 2 is 3. So now I know what the value of x equals. I need to check my answers. And so that's what I'm going to do here in this next video portion. I'm going to check my answers. I'm going to check my answers. And when you're checking your answers, you want to use PEMDAS. That's the order of operations. Because all we're going to do is substitute what the answer we got I think is correct, but now I'm checking to make sure it's correct. I'm going to substitute that for x and follow the order of operations. First you do parentheses, then you would do exponents, then you'd simplify by multiplying or dividing, and finally you would simplify by adding or subtracting. So I'm going to substitute that 3 everywhere I see x, right? Because x equals 3. And if x equals 3, I can substitute that value. And now I follow PEMDAS just to simplify. So when you're simplifying terms, you use PEMDAS. When you are solving for x, y, or z, you would use the opposite or the inverse of PEMDAS. 2 times 3, that's multiplying. I can multiply, right? There is a parenthesis here, but there's nothing inside the parenthesis I can do. So there's nothing inside the parentheses. I don't see any exponents. Can I multiply or divide? Multiply or divide? I can multiply. So 2 times 3 is 6. And then everything else, I just rewrite. I rewrite everything else. And so I bring down the -3, the equal, and then the 3. So next step, follow PEMDAS. There's no parentheses. There's no exponents here. I cannot multiply or divide. I can add or subtract. 6 minus 3 is 3. Does 3 equal 3? Is that a true statement? It absolutely is a true statement. Then I know in this particular problem I started with, 2x minus 3 equals 3, that x has got to equal 3. Hey, thanks for joining me. Math is easy. Take it step by step.